Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's Wednesday morning, the 24th of April. Sticking with the Sebastian Rogers case today because when a case grips me, a case grips me. I find it difficult not to want to report every single thing that I can and every single angle that I can about a case. Did it with Summer Wells, that's why I've got so many Summer Wells videos, over 550 videos on Summer Wells, because that case is nearly 3 years old. But I am covering other cases. If you want more cases from me, then go over to my other channel, my second channel, Michelle Walks. So yesterday I did a video on the Delphi case there. I did a video on Brian Koberger this week. So plenty of other content, plenty of other cases, if that's what you're looking for. So in this video, I want to give a couple of corrections first of all from yesterday's video. But I also want to look at another case from Tennessee from a few years ago, that of Joe Clyde Daniels. I made a comparison kind of the other day with Summer Wells for, food for thought purposes. All right, without further ado, let's go. So let's start with these corrections. I showed a screenshot from Facebook yesterday from someone called Linda about the reason why Katie and Chris were in the bike shop on Saturday before the vigil, and people are saying that they were buying a new bike, and Linda came along and said no, they're actually organising a bike rally. Well, she made a comment on YouTube to that video. She's also in my Facebook group and she's made a comment there as well. So it appears that Linda was misinformed, at least she thinks she does. So I'm Linda that made the Facebook comment. I was misinformed about Chris organising a rally. I did not mean to cause any deception over this. There are so many rumours running, swirling around that even people you believe to trust as a valued source can be wrong. Again, I'm very sorry for any duplicity my comment may have caused. Thank you, Linda, for having the balls to correct yourself. Not everybody does. I make mistakes, and when you do, you just correct it. So it's very possible that Chris and Katie weren't in the bike shop organising a bike rally. We'll wait and see though. You can't miss a bike rally, can you? So if it turns out that it's true, then that's great news. If it isn't, and they were just in the bike shop to, buy a bike, buy something connected to bikes, then that's all there was to that one. Secondly, in the second portion of yesterday's video, I showed a few seconds of narked divers, Trey, searching the retention pond, like walking that retention pond. It's near the construction site. And it pans over to about 3 or 4 people sitting on the bank. I said, this is Brothers Underwater Recovery, or words to that effect. And the camera, obviously not my camera, whoever was filming it, pans over. So someone called CJ contacted me and said, can I please fix the fact that it was him on the bank and not Brothers Underwater Recovery? So I have blurred out those people on the bank. I think that's the only time it shows someone else who could be confused with Brothers Underwater Recovery. So I've blurred it out. It does take a couple of hours for it to kind of show the new version on YouTube, but hopefully by the time this video uploads, that will have been done. So apologies to CJ for any distress that might have caused. I understand it's a very delicate subject, difficult subject. I don't like making videos like that, but everything has to be out there, and there you go. All right, let's move on. Nick Barris from News Channel 5 Nashville, this was yesterday, made a post I thought was interesting. What we learnt from the tragic Joe Clyde Daniels case that could apply to the Sebastian Rogers case. So this is Nick's viewpoint. I'm going to point out what I think about this, but it's interesting. So many of you have messaged me making this comparison. There are obvious differences, but also some stark similarities in the two missing person cases. So what do we know? 2 months and nothing, a grim milestone. It is indeed almost 2 months since Sebastian went missing. 15-year-old Sebastian disappeared from his Hendersonville home 8 weeks ago. As the search continues, authorities now look back at another high-profile and very similar case, one many of you will remember, involving Joe Clyde. So is he saying that the cops have told him that they're looking back on Joe Clyde's case to see what they can learn for Sebastian? Is that what he's saying? Authorities now look back. So he's claiming that the authorities, i.e. law enforcement, are looking at Joe Clyde's case to learn. Which they might well be. But is that what Nick is saying that they're definitely doing? Don't know. They want to know what might be learned from Joe Clyde that could help in the search for Sebastian. So I'd like him to clarify whether this is just what he thinks law enforcement are doing, or whether this is what law enforcement have told him they're doing. 5-year-old Joe Clyde disappeared from his Dixon County home in 2018. He's never been found. And some of the same people who looked for him are now also looking for Sebastian. There's no denying the similarities. 5-year-old Joe Clyde, autistic, was said to have wandered from his home at night barefoot and in his pyjamas. That was 6 years ago this month. Well, the obvious difference here is the fact that Joe Clyde was only 5, whereas Sebastian was 15. A child at the age of 5 going wandering at night, going out for a walk, in my opinion, is very different from a teenager, even if that teenager has autism. You wouldn't call it neglect if a teenager went out on their own. You can't call that a neglectful situation, can you? I mean, 15-year-old, you're nearly an adult, honestly. And we do know that Sebastian did stay home alone sometimes. We know that neighbours have seen him wandering, hiding under cars, or just wandering about in the neighbourhood. We know he did this. Was it when Katie was out? Was it at night? Maybe. But you can't call that neglectful. I don't think you can. 15-year-olds should have independence. But a 5-year-old going out wandering on their own at night, that's very concerning. How did that child get out, for one thing? But it wasn't true in Joe Clyde's case. Massive search and nothing was found. Now consider the 15-year-old Sebastian, also autistic, is said to have left his home in Hendersonville at night barefoot and with a flashlight 2 months ago. I'm going to say this yet again. I don't think that Sebastian was barefooted. I mean, he could have been. But I've speculated from early doors in this case that possibly Sebastian had a pair of shoes that his parents weren't aware of. And again, that would be his choice to have a pair of shoes. Maybe because we've heard from Seth, Sebastian's biological dad, that Katie, Sebastian's mother, throws shoes away once they're too small or they're scuffed or whatever. She throws them away, gets new ones. That's why they know Sebastian had 3 pairs of shoes. Some tennis shoes, some older tennis shoes, and then a pair of boots that his dad had just bought him. And all of those pieces of footwear can be accounted for. It's Sebastian's job to take out the trash. What if he saw a pair of shoes that he really liked in the trash? We know that he's probably very sensitive about having his stuff thrown away, because his stepdad, Chris, throws stuff away when he doesn't clean his room. He had his snake taken away, the snake that he loved. So we know he's got to be sensitive about that kind of thing. Maybe he takes stuff out of the trash and hides it. Possibly. I don't know. Now, much like Sebastian's case, there was no physical evidence to explain Joe Clyde's disappearance. You may recall his case quickly turned criminal. The key difference is his father confessed to killing his son. He quickly recanted that confession, but was still found guilty at trial. To date, Joe Clyde's body has still never been found. Okay, so this case, Joe Clyde's case, quickly turned criminal. Well, in Sebastian's case, it hasn't turned criminal after 2 months. Law enforcement, and last time they spoke, said that there's no signs of foul play at all. They're not ruling anything out, but there's no signs of anything really, apart from a dog track to the construction site. So, law enforcement have been somewhat disingenuous. I think law enforcement, I can't call them bad actors, but they've not been helpful, honestly. They were at first. The information that they gave in the first press conferences I thought were really useful, but as it's progressed, we've had some inconsistencies from law enforcement, just like we've had inconsistencies from the parents. We've also had inconsistencies from law enforcement. They said there was a track away from the home. They said there was no track. And Seth repeated what they said. First he said there was a track, then he said there was no track. His own PI, however, has said that there was a track. She told the YouTube channel, Surviving the Survivor, that there was a dog track from the home to the construction site. Chris told Not Divers exactly the location of the track. So, who do you believe? Well, the case hasn't quickly turned criminal. And where there is a problem with the story, a problem with what law enforcement are hearing, maybe it's just a hunch at first, it leads law enforcement, and they're probably quite often right, to look at a certain person or persons. We don't have any evidence that they're doing that in this case. So, what does this mean for Sebastian? Investigators have not cleared anyone, but also have no evidence to support foul play. This despite hours of interviews with those close to Sebastian. So no confession. Probably because they never did anything to him. The only person who possibly could have done something to him was Katie. Chris was 3.5 hours away. Unless there was an elaborate plan where Chris came home, leaving his phone in his RV in Mississippi, or just over the state line from Memphis, and came and disposed of Sebastian's body and then went back to Mississippi. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And Seth, as the best alibi ever, he was in jail. Not in jail, but working in a jail. Okay, so no confession, no physical evidence, no new leads. Not that we know about. Not that we know about. If anything is to be learnt from Joe Clyde's case, it's this. Someone who knows something must speak out, whether it's a confession or a new lead. If that doesn't happen, it's possible Sebastian's case will never be solved. Authorities have never named any potential suspects, and they say Sebastian's stepfather, mother and biological father continue to cooperate. Anyone with tips, call 1-800-TBI-FIND. What do you think? Now, I haven't read the comments. It'll be all blaming, I don't know, two sides. You're either Team Seth or you're Team Proudfoot. And then there's a few people like me who are not Team anyone, apart from Team Sebastian. I don't think any of the parents had any direct involvement. But there's statement analysts like Peter Hyatt who's saying that Katie isn't saying everything. Well, maybe she has to law enforcement. She never has to come forward and tell the world anything. So when is she going to come clean? When is she going to spill the beans? When is she going to unburden herself? How do you know that Katie hasn't told law enforcement exactly what happened, and it's law enforcement who've told Katie, don't tell them that? Like, let's say, for example, they had a row. Katie and Sebastian had a row when they got home from the restaurant. What if they had a row? What if Sebastian stomped off to his room, slammed his door? The thud was him being angry, throwing things. And then what if Katie thought they did all cool down and she went to bed and Sebastian went out? What if Katie and Chris were arguing on the phone and that's what they've left out because, appearances matter to them? What if they're having a row on the phone and Sebastian overheard? Neither of those things are criminal. Now, Peter Hyatt seems to think that it could be possible that Katie locked Sebastian out. Well, yeah, I guess it is possible, can't discount it. But somebody who doesn't like walking without shoes on would just stay in the yard, surely. I don't know. Maybe no confession, what Nick Barris is actually getting at, is that an external to the family person knows what happened. And Sebastian was abducted. There's always that. The bad actions of people in the neighbourhood, somebody local, may have befriended Sebastian when he was out wandering. He may have had the opportunity to get online. And one of the things that Katie and Chris might have been holding back initially was actually Sebastian does go online. Actually, Sebastian is always online. Maybe they felt that, maybe law enforcement felt that wasn't something they wanted the parents to let out. How do we know? How do we know what has been said between law enforcement and Katie? Law enforcement might even be telling Katie what not to say, and she listened, whereas Seth didn't. And maybe that's why Katie and Chris have the trust of law enforcement, if it's true what Katie said recently, that law enforcement speak to her every day. Whereas Seth has said law enforcement never speak to him. Maybe it's because Katie has said what law enforcement wanted to say. Chris and Katie are ex-military. They're used to taking orders. Maybe they're not searching because law enforcement advises parents not to search for obvious reasons. Now, many parents, including Seth, won't abide by that. You can't force them not to search. Maybe Katie and Chris are following orders. Does that make them look bad in the public eye? Yes. But maybe law enforcement feel that that's the best thing for the investigation. So just think on that. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. I've got him. Yeah, she said you're not having him. Got him. Got him. Come on then. Come on then. Come on then. Where is he? There he is.